Hey guys, James Wilson Taylor here for Rock Sound. It's another of our video calls. We've been catching up with everybody while we're all stuck at home at the minute. I'm delighted to say AViVA is on the line. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me.
No, of course. Nice to finally meet you. I've been a big admirer of your work recently. I've had that album on repeat a lot this year, and we'll get into
Thank
that because
you.
it's really, really great stuff you're doing. Before we do, we'll start this off the way we've started off all of these, which is to say, I hope you're okay, and I hope you and your family are staying safe and well in all this madness. How's your lockdown been going for you so far?
Well, I am in Australia at the moment. I'm based in LA, but I did come back to Australia when all this stuff went crazy because I wanted to be closer to my family, especially my grandparents. That touch wood, God forbid anything did happen, but everyone is well and healthy. And luckily for me, I am an internet person, so everything continues as long as I got some Wi-Fi. I'm good.
Yeah, absolutely. You have been so active during this time, just putting out. There's been like obviously the new music, which we'll come on to, but then also cover versions, real direct. I saw you do like Q&As and stuff. That's clearly
Yeah.
something important to you, right? Churning out this stuff online too, right?
My fans are the most important thing to me. So I feel like I have to take advantage of having this time. I'm not touring, I'm not traveling for work and meetings and all the usual stuff that takes up so much time. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to super serve them because I love hearing what they have to say and they seem to like hearing what I have to say.
No, that's a good attitude to have for sure. It makes sense, and you see that community building. And let's start there really, because I mean, even just clicking on your Instagram yesterday before we were going to have a chat, I was like, oh, I wonder what she's doing on Instagram today. Just a sea of amazing, amazing artwork from all
Yeah.
these fans that are sending to you all the time, all over the world.
I know.
How's it been like seeing this community grow? Because it feels like it's grown very quickly with you.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like that, and I can understand how, like, especially seeing it from the outside, it's like, oh, it came from nowhere, but it has been growing for since the release of Girls in 2017. So I don't know how many years that is. That's too much math for me. 3-4 years. It's been growing, and there's some people that I I try really hard to identify as many of the fans, and I know that with, you know, hundreds of thousands of followers, it's impossible for me to know every single one of them, but I do know some who have been there from the start and people that are super engaged and getting the fan arts from around the world, like literally around the world. It blows my mind, and I'm so thankful and grateful for it because creativity is my big thing, and I always talk about it, and I go on like, what creative thing are you doing? And I'm always like, creative quarantine. And seeing people actually making art, and somebody made a amigurumi crochet AViVA doll, which blew my mind. It was so cool, and I love craft, so it's really beautiful seeing people kind of being inspired by my music in all different mediums.
Yeah, it's amazing, amazing to see, and like I said, just the sheer amount of it. It's really great to see this following kind of building, and I guess we'll
Yeah.
start there with, I guess, like you say, Girls came out a while back, but it really kind of hit hard and had this kind of slow build online. I remember seeing it in YouTube videos and stuff before anything else. I think it was growing and growing and growing there, and then it appears on the Volume One record, which honestly, it's so so good. I really really like this record, man. And oh yeah, let's start with that then. How did that come together? I guess you had some songs from earlier, like Girls and stuff. Was it extended writing periods after that? Did you have these all together for a while?
We write music quite prolifically, so probably 2 songs a week
Wow.
that we like plan to keep. So it cracks me up sometimes on YouTube. People are like, you put up so much music so quickly, like you should really, you know, not rush, like we can wait, you should really just take your time and feel it. And I'm like, you don't know when I wrote this song, come on. So we do have a lot of music, and it makes me feel like a horse at a racetrack because I just want it to all come out because I love it, if I do say so myself. And it kind of was the same with Volume One. We wrote Girls and a few of the songs quite a lot earlier, and then some of the songs on it we wrote more recently to the release. For example, Psycho, when it was started and when it was completed. I mean, some songs we complete in a week, and then sometimes the production takes a bit longer. So it's kind of a spectrum, and I live in a mindset where I really appreciate the medium of an album. I talk about this quite a lot just in discussions with people. I really appreciate the album medium and the role that it plays, but I also kind of respect how that's changed. And that's why we release singles, and we release them more frequently than we had, because I just kind of go with what I feel is right and right for my fans. So it's not anything other than what do I think is the best thing for them? When is the best time to release for them? That's why I release the frequency that I do. And then bundling it together in volume 1 was kind of about creating a physical copy, because that's always nice. And I'm a stuff person, maximalist. And yeah, I guess there's just something about having them all together and putting them in the order that's telling the story. And I am telling a story because my music is linked to the universe that I'm building with the book that's coming out next year, the novel, and kind of all these ancillary parts of this world, this kind of speculative future that I'm creating. So I guess storytelling is a big part of what I'm doing, and that's why the album is the way it is. I went on a little tangent, so I digress.
No, but it's interesting. So that's really interesting to hear about. That's the reasoning behind all the singles as well, because it does make sense for the audience. They are, they are extremely online, and you are building that community online. And like you say, during quarantine, constantly putting out all that stuff, and whether it's covers or Q&As, and keeping that connection going. So it does make sense to just keep kind of bringing out more and more pieces of this larger story, like you say, in that way. What can you tell us about the book? I did want to ask about the book. Like, I know you don't want to give too much away, but obviously we can see that this is building to something bigger and bigger as it goes on.
Yeah. I always get tongue-tied because I have so many things I want to tell, but I'm at a point where I'm so intimately involved in all the world building that sometimes I accidentally say too much because I forget that it could be a spoiler, because I just know it intrinsically. So I can say that it's a future where creativity and self-expression are illegal, and there is a government called the Metropolis City Council, and they are, what are they? Are they good or are they bad? I guess it's a matter of which side of the coin you're on. The main character in the books is called Teddy, and she exists in this world. There are other characters, Kit, Jamie, Michelle, there's Link, and they all have Instagram, and they told me that they're going to get really active on Instagram soon. They've just decided that it's time. So maybe there'll be some more secrets coming soon. I don't know. They have their own lives. I'm just the puppet with which
you are merely spreading their message. That's all it is.
Exactly. I am just a mouthpiece for them and their story.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I take it, obviously, you're at the forefront of all this stuff that you do, and there's a real DIY spirit to what you do, which is really, really interesting as well. I think you really are at the heart and really driving all these things forward. Were you quite collaborative on that project in particular? Have you been working with people on the more novel and book side of things? It's all you. Fantastic.
Yeah. Except my book agent, whose name is Susie. She's with New Leaf, which is a big literary agency in New York. And obviously I've worked with editors to polish the book and get it to the point where it can be released. But as far as coming up with the story, developing the world, the characters, writing the novel, I did it all myself. I had somebody suggest much earlier, like, oh, why don't you get a ghostwriter? But I think what people don't realize is I don't see myself, and I never have seen myself as a musician who wrote a book. I am a musician, and I'm also an author and a writer, and I have always been writing as much as I've been writing music. I've been writing stories. And I thought it made sense for me to do both of them together, because that's all I wanted. As a teenager, all I wanted was that holistic world that I could get completely lost in when I was like having the crappiest time at school, and I wanted to read my books and put headphones on and just be like, fully immersed, and no one did it. So I was like, screw that, I'm going to do it.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's so good though, because you're right. It does take things to the next level. And like, I want to talk about some of your influences and things, because I think musically, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I certainly hear a lot of like Blurryface, 21 Pilots, Sierra, that kind of thing, and a lot of kind of different sounds in there. But in terms of this world building, yes, you could look at something like My Chemical Romance, all their Danger Days stuff and all that kind of thing. But this is so much grander in scale with it, and it's really kind of interesting to see. I love that you're doing that kind of thing. Talk to me about some of the inspiration points, both in terms of writing the book stuff and in terms of music.
Musically, my favorite band of all time is the Smiths. So that you could probably feel that kind of, I call it OG emo because it literally is the OG emo. And I don't fully think that my music fits with what I'm not new school, old school emo. And I'm not new school emo. I'm my own kind of emo that actually sits more with the Smiths type. It's not about feeling sorry for yourself. My stuff's about emotions, but not wallowing in them. It's about grabbing them, feeling them, accepting them, and allowing them to give you courage and power through whatever it is you're feeling. And I want people to feel empowered, and they do. In all the comments and the messages, they're like, listening to your songs on the bus to work or to school makes me feel like I can do my day regardless of what my boss says or regardless of what the bullies say. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I want. So I guess Smiths is my favorite band. I am influenced by things like the kind of vibes of Black Parade era and Blurryface stuff. I love Lana Del Rey. I love that femininity that she has, and that's one of the things that I think is really important to me as an individual. As far as the writing stuff goes, I just love all books. So I couldn't say that there's a particular author that's influenced me. My favorite genres are fantasy and science fiction. So pretty much that stuff. Well, yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, my favorite modern fantasy series is Throne of Glass. My favorite classic fantasy series is Lord of the Rings. And I think the reason I like both of those is because it's so immense. The world is so elaborate. And it's the same with the world of Harry Potter, with the movies and, Pottermore and all the games and all these ancillary parts. I love that about it. And I love Lana Del Rey's visuals and how they created stories. But even 21 Pilots, with all their amazing visuals, they don't have a story. They say they want their audience to come up with a story, and a lot of people do that. And a lot of authors say they don't want to do any images of their characters because they want the readers to come up with the vision of the characters. Well, I dress as Teddy when I perform live on stage. So I take that to the next level of the opposite extreme, where I'm like, these are the characters, they're your friends. Don't imagine them being random. Imagine them being real to you. Imagine yourself in that world. And that's what I want. I want to provide a safe space for my fans and the listeners to go to and always be able to return to, regardless of where they are on their life path.
Yeah, very wise words there. And I'm glad you mentioned the live show as well, because I guess obviously live plans are up in the air for everybody at the minute, but when they return, I'd imagine as the world builds and as the music builds and as everything gets more ambitious, surely you've thought the live show is going to be getting bigger and have more story elements and stuff. What can you tell me about that? Yeah.
Well, as far as live goes, this was meant to be a really big year, and it has not transpired. But next year, I definitely, we're planning for it to be next year. What happens, but the plan is to get to the UK and Europe next year. And hopefully some of Asia. I don't know about America at the moment. Things aren't looking as touring friendly, but definitely UK and Europe, top of my list for 2021. We have an amazing live show. I really like the fact, I guess, truth is I'm not a big crowds person. So as a consumer of live music, I have to really feel like I'm getting something from it. And I take that perspective into how I curate our live show. I don't want anyone to come to the live show and feel like they could have just listened to the album at home. because then why would you, like, I just hate that feeling when you go out and you're like, well, I could have stayed home, been in my pajamas, listened to the album and chilled out. I want people to come to the show, hear the songs as they know them. We're not going jam band, exactly as they know them, but with a new energy. And that's what I think that we do. And the feedback that I get from people, and when I say from people, I mean literally hundreds of people after the show lining up to say hello. And I love it. And I do it while I can, because I want to meet everybody and their parents. But what they all say is, yeah, it really surprised us that it was so alive. I'm like, well, it's live, so you want it to be.
Yeah, that's the aim. That's the idea. That's the aim. Absolutely.
Exactly.
No, very, very smart. Let's look a little bit ahead then, because I guess probably by the time this has gone out, it'll either just be about to drop or it'll have just dropped, which is Wicked, which is the next kind of taster of what you're doing. Tell me about, when was that written? Is this another quarantine tune, or has you had that a little bit of a while?
We kind of started it back in LA. The producer friend, family, extra AViVA band member, JP, who we work with on production for a lot of our songs, he came out to LA for us to do some writing sessions, and we started it then. And then I think he finished the production when he came back to Australia, because he's based in Australia. And yeah, so I would say it was finished at the very end of last year. But it is possibly my favorite AViVA song.
Big claim.
Ever.
Big
Yeah,
claim. Okay, why is that? Why? What is it about this one in particular that struck you?
This song is, well, no one's heard the song, but maybe by the time this is out, they will have heard it. The song to me is kind of, all my songs follow in the same themes, but it's got this attitude about it that I feel very close to. It's this whole thing like something that really annoys you, or somebody that really annoys you, and they know it and they don't really care, and they think that they're winning, but at the end of the day, you don't care, which is kind of what I'm all about. Not fitting in, not wanting to fit in, standing out against the crowd, being the rock in the river, despite what my family wish that I was, which is just a leaf on the top of the water. I really don't mind standing up for my opinions, standing up for my beliefs, standing up for people that I care about. And I guess that's kind of what this song stands out to me about being.
Nice. Wow, it's a mission statement by the sounds of it. Really, really.
Everything I do has a mission statement on it.
Nothing but mission statements. Nothing but mission statements coming forward. Well, last thing I want to kind of ask you about is something I spotted the other day, because again, we talk about how, you know, the book's coming and every song and visual seems to keep building this world. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah. Case in point, talk to me about Psycho Records, because this sounds like another next level for you.
Psycho Records is what I call Mateus's baby, because he's basically heading it up. Mateus is the co-collaborator with me for AViVA and has been from the start, since the very, very beginning. And we write the songs together. We do all the visual. I mean, I do all the artistic direction, but when it comes to actually getting things done, that's where he shines. He manages me, making sure that I am able to do stuff and not get too caught up in the artistry. Otherwise, I will spend 10 hours at my desk and not have even thought about replying to the comments. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a whole other world with people, even if it's on the internet. Then I'm like, replying to everybody. But I would say that about Psycho Records. It's Mateus's thing. But something that is interesting to note is that it exists within the world of the underground, which is in my book. So it is connected, and there are more reveals, if that makes sense. I named it because I am Psycho and I create records. But that's really all I have to say about it for now. Ask me again in a year and I might have way more to tell you.
This is it. We're going to finally get you over here on tour, and I'm just going to have a list of, right, what was that about? What was this about? Yeah, just going through all the questions.
Explain this for me.
I have a list of questions. Go. Yeah, that's why we'll do these next time. AViVA, it's genuinely really nice to meet you. Really nice to chat to you. I think it's really interesting what you're doing, and I just look forward to hearing more and more of it. Stay safe, and we'll see you in the UK when we can. Hopefully sooner rather than later. That's the aim, right?
Yes, hopefully. I'll get there.
Fingers crossed. All right, but great to chat to you anyway. Thanks so much, AViVA.
You too. Thank you.